Principal Matters Podcast, episode 475. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker back with my co-host, Dr. Jen Schwanke, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your school leadership. And Jen, we're going to get to hear. Oh, I know I shouldn't have favorites, but Dr. Robert Kaiser is one of our favorites. He's a wonderful principal here in the Tulsa area, and I've not only got to just coach him virtually, but also in person. So hold on, folks, because you're going to get to meet just a wonderful leader. But before we do that, each week we usually respond to a Q&A. So this week's question is, what are some strategies for my own professional growth while managing so many daily responsibilities? Jen, you feel that?
I feel like I cracked the code on this, believe it or not.
Oh, all right. Let's talk. Tell us.
So I spent the first 20 years of my career thinking exactly this. I have so much to do. How am I going to grow? How am I going to get better? And then I realized the answer is not working all the time, working harder, putting more hours at the end of your day. The answer is paying attention, paying better attention to the things you are doing. And I'm going to give you a very tangible example. As a principal, all of the grades, all the department heads would meet. And I was usually too busy to go to those, or they were happening when I had other things, right? An IEP, or I wanted to walk the halls or whatever. Well, I started going whenever I could, even for 15 or 20 minutes, to listen to other people be smart. And I really listened. I didn't open my computer. I didn't check my phone. I just listened. And I'm telling you, the knowledge that's out there, not just in my own school, but if I really just pay attention to a podcast or at a conference, to a breakout session, to PDs that other people do, I can learn so much, or it piques my curiosity to the point that then I'm motivated to go out and seek more learning on that subject. So I got, immeasurably smarter when I started paying better attention. That's my
Jen,
cracking the code. What do you
Jen,
think?
I hate to say this out loud because someone may steal the idea, but that's what we do in education. But I think the next book needs to be Cracking the Code to Lifelong Learning by Dr. Jen Schwanke.
There you go.
Um, but I'm so glad you said that out loud because I love to learn, and I think I'm naturally a curious person. But I think part of the reason, no, I don't think, I know, but one of the reasons I started this podcast and started writing and started doing the same things you do as an author is because I knew that I couldn't wait to keep learning until I had time to learn.
Yep.
And so for me, reflection on my experience is one of the best students for learning. And so I'd like to tell leaders, I mean, there's so many practical things you can do. You can listen to an audiobook on your commute to work. You can listen to a podcast when you're doing the dishes or painting the house, as a way to learn. You can attend conferences and workshops and PD and really pay attention to the things that other people are doing. But that thing you just said to me is the most powerful, which is as you're in the moment of your day doing your work, paying attention to what's going on, but also taking time to sit down later and reflect on what you just experienced. And what are those 4 or 5 things you would do differently next time or that you learned from that situation? And so much, Jen, of the content that we've created over these 10 years, you and I've been writing and presenting, et cetera. I'm pretty
Right.
sure I'm not dating both of us. I think we've both been
Right.
doing this a long time. Is just reflection on
Right.
this is what I learned when I went through that
Right.
situation. This is what I would do differently the next time.
That's
And
right.
and then writing it down so that I can go back the next time I'm facing that and look at my reflections and remember I learned something
That's
and
right.
apply it the next time too.
And I know this is short, so I'll make this fast. The other thing I stopped doing after 20 years of doing it wrong is I stopped being scared to ask questions. Just yesterday, I was talking to someone about a process with a student with significant needs, and she kept saying MRSS. And before, my ego would have stopped me from asking. And I stopped her and I said, "Can you tell me what MRSS means?" And she says, "Oh, absolutely. It's a mobile response and stabilization service." And then she told me what it did. I learned something. I learned something really important. Whereas my embarrassment before to not know it would have kept me from learning. So ask those questions. Say to people, wait, stop. I need to know more. I'm trying to learn. And then you do.
Well, I've gotten so excited during this Q&A that I can't wait to stop recording so I can just sit down and reflect. Right?
We're such geeks. Well, our listeners are probably like these two. Oh, stop it.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. Well, Jen, thank you for that feedback. How can our listeners stay connected with you in your work and your wonderful newsletter?
Yes, find me at jenschwanke.com, and there you can subscribe to my fun newsletter. I'm calling it fun as a way to get you all to subscribe and agree with me that it's fun.
It is fun and it's so valuable. I'm reading it every week and loving it. And listeners, you can stay connected with the content that we put out each week on this podcast at my website at williamdparker.com. And I know you're going to love this conversation with Dr. Robert Kaiser. Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. Everyone talks about the power of data-driven instruction. But how do you actually get the right results and know the best next steps? The secret is iExcel. iExcel helps you easily assess performance and determines the best path forward for each student. Whether you need data for benchmarking or intervention planning, iExcel can do it all. And iExcel doesn't stop at assessments. It also provides you with everything else your school needs, from a standards-aligned K-12 curriculum to actionable analytics. iExcel's online learning and teaching platform is research proven to improve student outcomes, and it's used by 95 of the top 100 U.S. school districts. If you want to start driving real progress, get started today at iexcel.com/PM.
You're listening to Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast.
Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. And this week, we're going to talk about lessons from a first year with my special guest, Dr. Robert Kaiser. Rob Kaiser brings over a decade of experience at Tulsa Public Schools to his current role as principal of McLean High School. A Teach for America alum, he began in 2013 as a fourth grade teacher at Cooper Elementary, earning a Tulsa Public School District Teacher of the Year in 2015. He then served as assistant principal and principal of Monroe Demonstration Academy, earning a doctorate in curriculum and supervision from the University of Oklahoma. When he was named McLean High School principal in 24-25, he immediately focused on attendance, student engagement, and even launched a Titan transport shuttle to reduce chronic absenteeism. He and his wife are proud parents, and he is committed to a mission of creating equitable, high-opportunity pathways for every student in North Tulsa. He's also a dear friend. Rob Kaiser, welcome to Principal Matters Podcast. Feel free to fill in the gaps on that intro and tell listeners something else they may be surprised to know about you.
Oh man, Will, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I've been excited to jump on this. I've about a year ago when we first really connected, I had a chance to really start to get into and dig into the podcast, and to get to sit here and be on this with some other great, innovative, creative names in education across the country is humbling and super exciting for me, because any day we get to talk about Monroe or McLean is a great day for me. And so, Will, I guess kind of a little backstory just for for people that might not know, I'm from Pennsylvania originally, from Stroudsburg, PA. Went and did the teacher college physical education degree at the University of Lynchburg in Virginia. And so I always tell people I had a really unique experience, because I did the traditional kind of teacher college, teacher school, and then had the opportunity to come on with Teach for America here in Oklahoma back in 2013. So I kind of got to see both sides of the coin as it relates to teacher preparation programs. Played basketball there at the University of Lynchburg. Athletics and sports, big part of my life, but also the way that I try to lead and connect with kids. So 2013 got to come out to Tulsa, and have been here ever since. And in Teach for America, it's funny, you get to pick like different cities or preference different cities. And I never thought this like PE guy from Virginia was going to get into the program. But I preferenced every city you could imagine in the Northeast, and Tulsa was last on my list. And so, but this is where they sent me, and this has become home. And of course, met my beautiful wife, and we got 3 babies. And so, so it's really become home to me. And Tulsa Public Schools is home to me. The work we're doing here under Superintendent Dr. Johnson, just super excited about where we're headed. and what's on the horizon. And so, yeah, I'm just super excited to be here. Really excited to talk and kind of dig in a little bit about some of these questions and talk about my first year at the high school, lessons learned, things that some moments, big aha moments, some successes, and just kind of how we're moving into year two.
Well, so listeners have some context. We're recording this in the summer. It'll be coming out in November or sometime in the fall. You just returned from a summer conference with COSA, which is our state association for superintendents and principals and directors. And you presented some of this content there from you and your team as well. So congratulations. And let
Thank
me
you.
just say, as someone who's watched your work, because have followed you online, you had been on my radar long before we ever became friends, because of just the great work that you've done, Rob. And so there's a reason you were chosen to step into the work that you're doing now. But before we talk about McLean, I want to first talk about some of the lessons that you learned in your previous leadership experience that helped you when you
Yeah.
stepped into this. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, Will, where to begin, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think you bump your head, you stub your toe. Every year, I think so much of it is learning. I think if I really think back to my time at Monroe, and that's where I first started as a school leader. My first boss, Dr. Kiana Smith, gave me a chance to come on as an assistant principal. And just kind of some backstory on that. So I came into a small magnet school, about 250 students, staff of 30. Dr. Smith at the time had really innovative, creative micro society tribes. I mean, we were really doing some cool things in Monroe. And fast forward a year later, we're now in this huge transition where we're transitioning from a magnet school to what we refer to here as a neighborhood school. So we become, the full middle school for McLean High School. We're going from staff of 30 close to a staff of 100, going from a school of 250 kids to about 800 kids, doing it in 6 months, starting the year, no doors on the no handles on the doors in some rooms, and just this whole whirlwind in the newspaper, and different groups a part of this. And so to kind of be able to look back on that, I think I really think one of the biggest lessons of leadership that I've learned is to put your feet where you lead. We
Mm.
talk about that a lot, is just trying to make an opportunity to put our feet where we lead. So um, there's not a street here in our neighborhoods that we don't put our feet. There's not a basketball game that we don't show up to. There's not a classroom that we don't go to. And so I think so much of what I learned is that I think as a leader, it's just so important as a school leader to just be in it. And so tonight, like we're recording this in June, we're going to be setting up a table in the middle of our Juneteenth celebration in the city of Tulsa. This third week in July, we'll be in our neighborhoods and things like that. So I think number one is, so many problems I think can be solved, and so many relationships are built by just showing up and putting your feet where you're leading. And so I think that's, kind of number one, that's kind of prepared me coming into McLean. I think the other big lesson that I've thought of over the past, 7 years I was at Monroe, and kind of preparing me to come up here, just the importance of really creating a vision of what we really want school to be. I have a teacher on our team, brilliant, and he's really been great. Kind of comes from a business sector background, and has worked with $1 million organizations, and really helped me think through kind of some wording for this. And this may be a lesson learned this year, but something that I always maybe knew was true, but didn't have the words for it. But it's just, what's like our unicorn? Like in 10 years, like when we look back, we're thinking 10 years ahead. Like, what do we want kids to feel? What do we want kids to experience? What do we want people to be saying about our school? And so I think coming in, I knew the importance of it, but I think this year really doubled down on just how important that is. Um, and then I think just the importance of showing up, enthusiasm, consistency, excitement. every day. I used to put on everything we did at Monroe. I would always have a hashtag every year. That's coming from my basketball coach at the University of Lynchburg, Coach Scott. We always had a hashtag. But one of the things also is I heard a quote one day, way back when that said, it's not the big moments that make the change, but it's your ability to show up every day and do the little things with great consistency and enthusiasm. And I have become the biggest believer in that. We're going to have the big moments. We're going to do the big stuff, but it's can every day you come with a cup of coffee and just run as fast as you can to what we're trying to do. And I think we've seen success in that. I think that we've been able to outpace and just outwork in some ways kind of the status quo, and that's who we're always kind of fighting against. And I think I just have had great teams. I mean, just been around great people. I knew that coming into just the importance of getting your team together, being around great people. I have two assistant principals right now that are 10 times smarter than me in so many areas, and to have people, great thinkers, great doers, is really important. So, kind of a big answer, but really, I think those three things have been, really having a team, creating a strong vision, showing up every day, enthusiasm, excitement, and putting your feet where you're leading and not leading behind the desk, leading in front, showing up in the neighborhoods, going to games. It's a full-time job, and the kids deserve for us to be running full speed every day, and that's what we try to do.
You brought that kind of experience and commitment into the school that you're in now. And this is the one I want to focus on here next, is how those previous experiences informed the context into which you're working. But before I even get there, Rob, I want to come back to that previous experience with Monroe Demonstration Academy, because those commitments led to some pretty amazing outcomes. So talk to that for just a minute. What were some of the outcomes that came from those kinds of commitments that really was, I'm going to say, probably is what motivated leadership to tap you and say, let's go do this in a new place?
Yeah, I think I go back to team, Will, on that one, and I think it's getting the right people in the right seats on the bus. I think that was so important at Monroe. I think creating that vision, and once we did that, we again just talented people. My assistant principals, our deans, everybody at when I my last year at Monroe, I felt like we were at our best. I mean, we were really clicking. I felt like everybody knew our vision. People were running with it in their different lanes. We weren't perfect. Let me tell you that. We weren't perfect, but we're really doing that. And at the end of my time at Monroe, I was really excited about teacher retention, number one. I think we ended over 85% retention rate after the third and fourth year. And that was huge in just stabilizing and really creating a stable environment for kids to have education. I think when we look back at the history of Monroe, the history now of McLean, we just see constant kind of principal turnover, name changes, building changes, and everybody had great meaning behind those. It's not a negative, but it's just the reality of the work here and what makes kind of our work here at Monroe and now McLean unique comparatively to any other school in Tulsa public schools, is just that there's been so much change and so much change in leadership. And so I think, number one was that with us at Monroe, doubling the proficiency scores on MAP. MAP is our assessment that we use for our growth assessments throughout the year. We raised our school report card by over 7 points over 3 years, which was huge. Developing again that stable and consistent environment for students. We saw decreases in suspension rate when we first came to Monroe. I want to say the suspension rate was close to 27%. I think we got it down around 12 or 13 by my last year. I think, full academic offerings, had over 30 expanded learning programs for students. A huge thanks to that was the Ed Darby Foundation and the work that they did to sponsor that. But we were able to get really strong teacher retention. We were able to build a really robust after school model for kids. We kids saw the same teachers year after year, which is like huge. I want to give a shout out or use an example of our debate team at Monroe and just the relentless pursuit. That was one of our taglines one year, was relentless pursuit, of a teacher by the name of Laura Grisham. She becomes the teacher of the year in Tulsa Public Schools. She starts a debate team with like 3 kids, but just relentlessly pursued this debate team to where she is now. It's the like most successful middle school debate program in TPS in the Urban Debate League. They took a field trip to OU. They're on campus with the debate league. And moments like that, you kind of look back and say, man, we put in a lot of work. We really ran hard and fast, but the outcome is there. And shout out to everybody on the team, because really, you, especially when we're looking at just like deep kind of rooted turnaround and really moving things and really trying to change direction. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen in a year. It really doesn't even happen in 2 years. Really, I think by year 3, we really started to see some of the fruits of that labor. But by the end of year 2, it's really easy to say, well, hey, this is just really hard. And, I've really tried. I got 5 kids, and, we're going to be done there. But like Laura, for example, just pushed through, and to see where she is now is just a testament to her work. But I think when I look back at Monroe, we went from first a magnet school, but when we look at McLean Junior High, because that's what we became. We look at instability, multiple places, the 7th grade center, 7th and 8th grade at the high school, McLean Junior High, McLean 7th. So just multiple changes to where now I think Monroe is in a very stable place under the great leadership of Dana Simmons, and her team over at Monroe is doing just a tremendous job. And I think thanks to a lot of people, we've really created a sustainable middle school in North Tulsa. And that was what our goal had always been. And I know they're just going to keep growing and keep going at it. And so, yeah, I think that was something that I think back at Monroe. And for the listeners out there may not know, Monroe, it's the middle school to McLean. So I'm not changing communities. I'm going. We were on 48th and North Lewis. I'm coming now to 49th and Lewis North. I'm sorry, I'm coming to 29 North Peoria, but that's 2 streets over. It's a walking path away, and so I feel so blessed. I'm gonna be honest, to get to stay now coming into year 9 in our community, where really gotten to know families and cousins and brothers and sisters, and I'm really excited about what's moving forward. So shout out to the team at Monroe. They're doing tremendous work, and really proud of the work that we were able to get done over there.
Well, Rob, that's such a beautiful summary of 7, 8 years of your time there, and now transitioning to the high school where those kids are going to be coming. When you started at Monroe, and when you left at Monroe, those were completely different size schools. And so you mentioned at the beginning Monroe's size when you stepped in. How large was that school when you left?
When we left, close to a staff of 100 people. We had a campus model. So we really had 4 buildings that we were now over. We went from kind of being a school model to a campus model. And we went to I think they're at around 700. It's about 740 kids
Yeah.
all together. So really got to see experience and lead and fail through lead fail, start to succeed a little bit, fail, succeed a little bit through some big changes. But thanks to so many people, the teachers that are just staying committed to the work, to the leadership of Miss Simmons, Monroe's in a really good spot and will continue to be. So excited about that.
Well, I wanted to give all that context so that when leaders hear me ask you lessons from a first year with Dr. Robert Kaiser, they recognize that the chapter that you're in is a part of a much bigger narrative. All of us come in with narratives that are much bigger than just the chapter that we're in. So I wanted to set that context first, because in the work that you've been doing presently, I wanted to invite you, and we talked about this because you and I have been meeting periodically throughout the year, and I've been able to have the privilege to do some coaching with you, and I've visited your school, and I've gotten to walk and just see the amazing culture and relationships and outcomes that you're building. But now take us into the narrative of this chapter.
Yep.
Stepping into a new school, stepping in with a new staff, stepping into a new place, and some of those outcomes that you've been watching happen in that
Mhm.
first year of a new school, new setting, new assignment.
Yeah. So so of course last year had the chance to be named the principal here at McLean, and just really kind of the first 3 months were just a whirlwind. Uniquely to my situation, came up to McLean. Um, One of my amazing assistant principals um, was out for some time, so didn't start until November. So then had another brand new assistant principal that was starting in August. New secretary. So just everything really new. And for better, worse, or indifferent, it was kind of me here, kind of holding down the fort for the first 2 months of the summer, which is where so much planning gets done. Um, Not having any real experience in the high school, because all my experience had been in the elementary school and the middle schools before that. You're planning for kids that you've seen and known since sixth grade. You've watched them grow up, and planning for a lot of unknowns about, how does school really work here at the high school, and what are some of the unique challenges, and how does that work? And so in some areas, I think I was really prepared. In other areas, I think I was really unprepared for the start of the year. But I think as we continued the year, one thing I can say about our team, we ended so much stronger than the way we started, and that's just every year we try to do that. And so just really proud of them. I think when I think back to kind of that transition coming in, excitement, a little nervous energy, getting to meet a new staff, getting to meet, I've been around the same people really for 7, 8 years, coming into a brand new staff with different people, different content knowledge. And so definitely some challenge there. Also just challenging when like everything changes for the staff, right? It wasn't like I came in and the same two assistant principals were there, the secretaries, just kind of a new face to the team. It was like everybody was new, and it was new all around. And it's especially hard in a school like a Monroe or a school like McLean, when change happens, and it happens like where everybody's new, because our kids thrive in consistency. They thrive in routines and procedures. And the principal before me, Miss Rabovsky, dear friend, did a great job here at McLean, and built great relationships, and worked so hard to really move things forward. And so coming in, felt this really like pressure to keep that moving, and keep the ball rolling, and really move this forward for our kids. And then on top of that, I've parents have trusted me with their kids their whole middle school career. Now they're coming up with me and the high school. And so I'm thinking about it, and staying up at night thinking, man, if a kid doesn't succeed here, I've touched every one of their years of life. I mean, as from sixth grade to 12th grade, I failed in some way. I mean, there's something that we weren't able to do, or something we missed, or something we didn't do. So I think uniquely there's another level of pressure, another level of thoughtfulness in everything that we do. Um, and so I think that was kind of the transition in, is just new, rip the Band-Aid off. Kids are coming. We're going to try and set some audacious goals, and really try to move the needle forward, and learn a lot of lessons along the way. So that's where we were at.
Well, that's the context in which you were stepping.
Yep.
And as you have lived this journey for the
Yep.
last year, Rob, and I'm just going to say this to listeners so that they'll understand the context too. Um, you don't lead in isolation. You lead with teams. You surround yourself with good people. You model the things that you are asking others to do. And then you celebrate the heck out of your kids. I mean, that's one of the things I admire so much about you, Rob, is that when I check your post, or I'm looking at your LinkedIn page or wherever, you never hesitate to say, look what my kids are doing. Look what my kids are doing. And so I want to talk a little bit about I call these buckets when you're leading change. Relationships is one of the buckets. Creating the right systems is one of those buckets. And then supporting your teachers and students is one of those buckets. So you can go whatever direction you want with that. But I just want you to talk about how those became, how did you pour into those buckets when it came to leading in this first year, really building the kind of momentum you wanted to see happening at McLean?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Will. I really do. I just to your point too, I think it's my job. I always say my job is to be the biggest cheerleader for my school. Nobody can be a big, there's a lot of people that can be smarter at scheduling. There's a lot of people that can be better at the academic X's and O's, but nobody can be a bigger cheerleader for my school than me. And I really try because we got some great kids. I mean, it's the best kids doing awesome things. And so to that point, yeah, I agree with you on that. I think the when I first came to Tulsa, there's a superintendent by the name of Dr. Ballard, and I had the chance to really build a great relationship with him towards the end of his career and then ultimately the end of his life. And one of the things that he always shared in any class I had with him or any conversation we'd have over the phone or in person is he would say three words: relationships, relationships, relationships. And he like brought everything back to that. Now, this is a guy, Tolson of the Year, a superintendent of the biggest district in Oklahoma, um, OU professor, and that was like what drove him and what he really believed moved the needle for change and moved the needle for this whole thing that is school and school leadership. And I've just grown to believe that wholeheartedly. And I think so really wanted to, as best as I could, try to build as many relationships with the community, with students, with teachers, and really thoughtfully and hopefully create like deep relationships and stable relationships and healthy relationships within the building, within the community, and within the staff. And that was a big focus of mine coming in. I think so that was number one, and that's just a continuous work. We talk about being out at Juneteenth this tonight, and excuse me, being in the neighborhoods. It's just that continuous piece of showing up, building those relationships with our community. So I think that was really important. I think systems, a very close second. I think thinking through what systems work, what systems don't work. I think coming in, it was interesting, Will, for me because like I kind of gave the context coming in brand new, so kind of a lesson learned. I came in just me thinking, hey, like these things worked for me at Monroe. These are some of the systems maybe we'll just, continue forward here. And now I've got the great assistant principals that are pulling on me left and right, saying, Kaiser, maybe not that way, not that way. Let's look at it this way. Didn't have that. And so came in with some systems that I thought, hey, this worked before, this will work again. Found very quickly that it didn't work or wasn't ready to be worked or wasn't working here. And so I use that as an example just to say, I think as the year moved on, I think our systems became much clearer. And that was really thanks to teachers. That was thanks to TCTA rep and us getting really together and really thinking through like what makes sense, what works, what doesn't work, where are areas that we can improve together. And I think we ended just night and day from where we started, ended very clear about next year, where we're going. And so that would be number two, but that's also like a lesson learned too for me. And I think it was easy for me here because I had the same kids, right? I had the same kids at Monroe. It's like, oh man, that Joseph Morris to be a senior, and I've had him since the sixth grade. He's going to do what, so anyway, long story short, I think that was definitely a lesson learned, but definitely something that was like an aha moment for me in my first year of just the importance, I think, of really connecting with what was working in the past. How do we build and enhance that? How do we continue that to create some of that like really important stability? And then how can we build on top of that as we move forward to improve? And so I think that was a big aha moment and something that, we're going to continue to strive to do this upcoming year. But yeah, I think those things in particular, as it began to lead through change, really started to learn the staff, learn about different people's strengths and areas that they needed some support. And that goes from my role to assistant principal roles to dean roles. And so we're heading into next year. This is, say, in June. We have one position left to hire for, but coming in fully staffed. Just made some great hires athletically. Our teams have been getting after it this summer. So just really excited about where we're headed. Really excited about. We had a ILT summit, back to your point. Something we presented on at COSA was some of the work we do with our instructional leadership team. Our learning director, Miss Sydney Goburn Dowdy, just a rock star. Has met with all of our department chairs. We've got planning done. They're ready to hold their summits in July with their teams. And so I think we're really moving in a great direction, feeling really confident, 2 feet planted, stable, and ready to move forward. So I think when we think about leading through change, definitely some aha moments through that system work, and definitely some aha moments of, if I were to do it again, I think there would be some things I would do differently. And so I think that comes every year. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Oh, Rob, you have so much to be proud of, and I want to take a second before we wrap up with speaking to some specific leaders in different places of their own chapters, to celebrate some of those outcomes, because this year McLean has seen some and had some experiences that I know you're so proud of, whether that's the number of your kids qualifying for scholarships, reintroducing fine arts in a way that hasn't been there before, reinvigorating the athletics programs that you guys have. So take a minute and just celebrate your school. What are some of those outcomes that you're most proud of as you
It's
wrapped
gonna
up this first year?
it's gonna be hard for me to do it in just a minute, Will, but I want to just start with our play, or our musical. So first musical at the school. Sounds small, but it was big. Ever in like 30 years.
Mhm.
And our kids did awesome. We brought the feeder elementary schools up to watch it. Um, like I said, shared earlier, my background is athletics, was never like a musical guy. I'm Mr. Show Tunes now. I'm just loving it. I love the kids and the plays and all this kind of stuff. So really excited about that. I think really excited about some of the work we did with ACT. We saw some great improvement from the pre-test to the post-test, throughout the course of the year. Really excited about the work we did this year with graduation, getting students graduated. We had a great signing day for our athletes, where we had 12 students all sign letters of intent to move on to play at the next level. I think so. So those things jump off the page at me. We had some great scholarship money that our kids were able to access, and really, as we have gone throughout the course of the year, um, each week felt more stable than the next. It felt like we're really getting our legs underneath of us. Not perfect by any sense of the word, let me tell you that, but
Okay.
really excited about where we're headed next. I think this summer in particular, we've had every athletic team out here. We're halfway through summer school, and we've already got over, I want to say, 15 classes that students have made up through their credit recovery work. We're out in the neighborhoods, we're out in the community. We've got one position left to hire for next year. So prayerfully we'll go into next year fully staffed, across all areas, all content, everything like that. Some great work, some great learning, some great planning that will take place in July. And so I say, like, whenever I post something up, I'm like, where else would you rather be? No place I'd rather be than right here at 4929. And just really excited about where we're headed and where we're going. And I just try to use every moment I can to be the biggest cheerleader of my school, be the biggest cheerleader of my kids. It's my number one job. And I'm excited about where we're headed. We've got some fun things planned on the horizon. And as we continue to look towards this unicorn and this big goal of having McLean be a full, high functioning, comprehensive high school where kids have opportunities to engage academically, and with fine arts and extracurriculars. And so just really excited about that work, and excited about the wins that we saw this previous year, and what that's going to look like coming into next year.
Rob, you know this research, but more than probably it was 2011, 2012, the Wallace Foundation did this comprehensive study over school improvement, and they came out with a couple of statements that didn't surprise us. One, that the highest contributing factor to student achievement at the school is going to be the quality of their teacher. And number two, that the second highest influencing factor of the achievement of a student is going to be the quality of their school leader. And as I walked your school with you this past year, and I remember in particular being on the stairs, walking by a student, and that student stopping me and saying, "Hey, I love this school, and he's the reason." And so I'm not saying that to say Rob's the reason that this has all been successful. I just wanted to publicly thank you for the commitment that you've made to your students and your teachers in a way that they recognize the quality of their teachers and their leaders there as well. And I want to take a moment to ask you to speak to two different people. One, the person that's stepping into leadership for the first time. What are some things that you would tell a new leader to just hold on to as advice for that first experience?
Yeah, I think well thank you. Well, that means a ton to me and just, thank you for the kind words. I think the number one thing that I would tell a new school leader, and I know I said it earlier, but I just believe in this wholeheartedly, is just put your feet where you lead. I just you can never go wrong if you're showing up in the spaces, if you're going to that classroom that's just really hard and kind of on fire, but if you're just showing up every day to help, if you're in the cafeteria where the kids are, if you're in the hallways with a cup of coffee in the morning, I think the ability and your intentionality behind just showing up in those spaces for kids, being at the games, being in a neighborhood, being wherever you can be around the kids. I just think it's so important. And I think as a new leader, like we'll work on the X's and O's of classroom instruction. We'll work on the X's and O's of like how to do referrals or, you know, how to submit the parent, requests or the newsletters or things like that. Like all those things can be taught and can come. But again, I just think I really, really believe it's not the big moments, but it's the little moments of your ability to show up with great enthusiasm, consistency every day, in those spaces where kids are, where the community is. And if you can do that, you're going to start to build trust with people because they're going to see you're doing this for the right reasons. They're going to see that you're here for the kids, not here because you're the principal or because you have some kind of title. But the more that you can just show up, I just think the more successful you'll be. And it's something we all can control. Like there's a lot of things, like I may not be great at giving feedback to teachers as a new assistant principal or as a new principal. I just really may struggle with the faculty meeting and how to make that really useful, but something every leader can do. And it costs you nothing. You don't have to work at it. You just have to be intentional about showing up. And I think all of our kids, no matter what neighborhood, no matter what school, no matter what district, just deserve their leaders and the people that they look up to be showing up, showing up, showing up, showing up.
Mm.
And I just think it's so useful, and it's made such a difference for me, in the work that we do.
Now speak to that veteran leader because we've got folks that listen to this show that are stepping into leadership. We've also have folks listen to this show that have been leading for a long time. Rob, what words of advice? And none of us does it perfectly. None of my guests are here because they're perfect, but I do want you to speak to how can leaders stay motivated in this work over the long term because you've been doing this a while too. And so, what would you
Yeah.
say to that veteran leader?
Yeah, I think this will be my ninth year in school leadership, coming into year nine in the same feeder pattern, the McLean feeder pattern for 9 years. I think like sustainability and your ability to stay at this work, I think it really comes down to routines. I mean, I just think the routine, your personal routine is the most important thing. For me, it's like you get up like a madman because I got three kids, 3 and under. Like you're getting up at 4:45 in the morning. You're going on that run. Like you're making sure that you've got your things in order at your house with your wife, with your kids, and just making sure that that routine exists. I think that as a veteran leader, sometimes those routines exist because I think we're all just human nature of getting into a routine. But I think, I always think back to the old quote that says, like, you make time for what you value. And I have to do a time check sometimes, like, what is my time being spent doing? And is it doing what I truly say that I value? And is the time I'm spending in various places, I say I value it, but is the time that I'm spending in those places really showing that? Is it showing it to my family, my kids, my school? And so kind of those gut checks sometimes I think are helpful and important. But I think the pace at which you have to run in order to beat the status quo, because the status quo is just going to keep us where we're at. I think the pace at which you have to run just has to be faster, especially when you're in a school that you're really trying to make change at, and really trying to give all our kids the best opportunities they can. That pace is just going to have to be faster, more consistent. And with that, I think there comes a greater responsibility on the leader to make sure that their routines are as strong as they can be, in check. It's not perfect, of course not, but um, I remind myself that now of 9 years, like what's my routine? Where am I making time? Where is the time I'm spending showing I value in my life? Yeah. And I think that helps me at least stay grounded in, hey, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. Yeah, so on and so forth.
I love that, Rob, so much. And anyone who's listened to this show for a long time is not going to be surprised to hear me say that. And I've never done the math. I don't even know if there's any research out there on this. I've talked to some friends that are doing some research on leader well-being, but the common refrain that I hear from my friends that have done this sustainably is exactly what you said. How do I make
Mhm.
sure that I build a routine for me so that I'm taking care of myself, my health, my family, my priorities, not because I'm going to be a perfect person, but because I can't show up and care for all these needs that I'm going to have if I'm not taking care of those things for me first. And so, man, Rob, it was a hard lesson for me to learn in leadership because I thought I could put those things to the side and just focus on school, and which led to some really difficult burnout. And so, just like you, I've had to figure out like how do I build the system that I want to create the outcomes that I want. And so if you want to create that kind of sustainable system for you, it comes back to your routines as well. Well, as we wrap up this conversation, because I know we're both pressed for time and you've got some important meetings getting ready to happen right after this, even though it's summer, I want to give listeners a chance to know how to connect with you. And I also wanted to just give you a chance to say anything else that was on your mind that you wanted to share as you reflect back on this year.
Yeah, I think to connect, try to stay real active across all social medias. So Rob Kaiser, uh, I'll be on LinkedIn and Facebook, and Principal Kaiser on Instagram. That's more so my shout outs to the students. But I think yeah, I think when I reflect back on the year, just excited, Will, just excited. I mean, I have the best job in the world. I'm working in Tulsa Public Schools that I think we are headed for just greatness. I think under the leadership of Dr. Johnson, she was a student at McLean. She was a principal at McLean. To see her be the one to lead us, just super exciting. I think some great things are taking place in Tulsa Public Schools across the district. And I just feel so blessed. Well, I mean, 9 years, I wake up every day excited for work. I wake up every day, not saying there's not challenges, of course there are, but like, man, I get to do this. I get to be the principal at McLean High School. Like, not many people have gotten to say that in their life. And I never want to take that for granted. I get to be around great kids every day in a place that's really, really special. So I guess I just want to end with gratitude. Thank you to you, Will. You've been great this year. Really helped me coach around just processing through different things throughout the year. It made me a better leader. Love this podcast, and just, man, leaving on a really high note just to say thank you. And Rob, you're going to listen to this, whenever this comes out in the fall, and I hope everything's going good. So that's a message to you moving forward.
All right, brother. Well, Rob Kaiser, it's such a privilege to get to sit in the room with you. Thank you for taking the time to share your lessons with leaders and Principal Matters listeners as you're stepping into your day, stepping into your week. Put your feet where you lead. Stay committed to those routines for your own sustainability. Realize we're never going to do it perfectly, but be the biggest cheerleader you can for your students and your communities. And Rob, I know there's more to come, my friend. So I look forward to sharing this with the world and look forward to continuing these conversations. So until next time, thank you for doing what matters. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Principal Matters.